talk a little bit more about the series with former Flyer Danny Briere, who got a chance to run into in the press box the other day. So we know that he was closely watching what happened in Game 3 of the Flyers and Penguins series. Danny, how are you, pal?
Hi, guys. Doing good. Thank you.
Good to have you back. And, the Flyers, it was kind of interesting. You watch that game for the first 10 minutes, and they looked clearly like the better team, outshooting Pittsburgh 11-4. But did you kind of have the sense that if they couldn't get one home, that they might be in some trouble?
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, you got to give Pittsburgh a lot of credit. They knew they had to weather the storm at the beginning. The presentation was amazing. The fans got into it. It was loud. It was crazy. And I think the players fed off of that. But, when they were able to, so for Pittsburgh's side, when they were able to get through that, you can kind of feel the tide slowly turning, and they took advantage. I'm still convinced if we would have been able to capitalize on those chances when we had the energy on our side early on, it would have been a different game.
Yeah, and I really thought, forget everything else that happened. I thought Murray's save on Nolan Patrick might have been the thing that tipped that whole game. If he puts that by Murray there, we might be having a different conversation right now.
Yes, he was solid from the get-go, and that's what Murray did. He was just solid, and saves were made when they were needed. It's not that he was dominant the whole game, but when the saves needed to be made, he made them, and he kept his team in the game, especially those first 10 or 12 minutes.
Danny, the Stars have to shine during the playoffs, and your former housemate had a tough game the other day, perhaps none more than on that fourth goal where he lined up opposite Sidney Crosby and had not one but two hiccups on that play that led to the Penguins' fourth goal. Grip the stick a little tight, all those phrases that people say. What's your impression of Claude Giroux so far in this playoff series?
Well, I think it's been the same image as the whole team. First tough game in Pittsburgh, then they bounced back, and I thought their line with Claude, Sean, and Raffle were excellent in Game 2, and then the whole team again in Game 3 had a little bit of a struggle. So it's funny because we can say the same about the Pittsburgh players in Game 2. The Stars were not really there to be seen. So it's been a funny series in that sense where the scores have been so lopsided in every game. You don't see that very often.
Now in the playoffs, we're talking with Danny Briere. You're supposed to have home ice advantage, but it's like the Penguins are like, sweet, Wells Fargo Center, let's go. I mean, I saw this stat today. In the 3 games at the Wells Fargo Center this season, the Penguins are 6 for 13 on their power play. The Flyers are 0 for 15.
I know it's tough to explain, but then again, we had home ice advantage for the first 10 minutes of the game. The crowd was amazing. It really got everybody into it. But Pittsburgh has a lot of experience. They've played in similar types of games now for the past, it's the 3rd year in a row. They've, 2 Stanley Cups the last 2 years. You build a lot of experience. You feel comfortable playing in the big games. So, it shows at certain moments of the game. But on the Flyers side, what I like is, yes, you can look at it and they're bad games, 2 lopsided loss in this series, but those are moments that you learn from. Those are moments that are going to make you a better team down the stretch. That's the way I see it.
Hey, Danny, obviously the Flyers came out on Game 2 in Pittsburgh and, took control of that game, ended up with a 5-1. So what did you see in that game that maybe you didn't see in the game on Sunday that you'd like to see them come back with tomorrow night?
A little swagger, a little embarrassment from Game 1. They came back out strong. They had something to prove in Game 2 because people were questioning, the spirit of the team. And then in Game 3, they came out strong, but that embarrassment kind of shifted to the Pittsburgh side, and they had something to prove. So I'm hoping that the same trend continues, and tomorrow we're able to use that to our advantage after kind of being spanked again in last game. Maybe they have something to prove again.
Danny, one of the things Coach Hackstall talked about after the game on Sunday was the stick infractions and the number of power plays. He said there's basically a 30-minute stretch there where the Flyers kept going to the box, and you can't give them that many power plays. That said, though, I went back. I had DVR'd the game. I watched, you watch it up high there in the sky, but then you go back and come on, that slash on Giroux. If you were playing the game, you might say, I can't do this anymore because what's a penalty, what's not a penalty. I mean, Hack is adamant that Crosby said, oh, he's touching the top of the stick. I'm just going to drop my stick here and get a slash.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could, talk about the referees, but it's not going to change. It is what it is. I think we have to do a better job trying to limit, the amount of times we put ourselves in that position where is it a slash, is it not a slash? We know the rules. They're looking for it, especially early in the playoffs. They want to set the tone. But you're totally right. We cannot give the Pittsburgh Penguins so many power plays with the talent that they have throughout the lineup. You're playing with fire when you do that.
Danny, if the Flyers look like they're going to make a couple changes, Wheel in and Lindblom out, is that something that you would put a stamp of approval on? Do you think they had to do a little something, shake something up?
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. There's guys, a few extra guys are sitting, kind of waiting, chomping at the bit. They want to get out there. Jordan Wheel is a player with skills and speed. So playing against a fast Pittsburgh team who has a lot of skill, I think it matches up well. I rely on the coach to make those decisions. I think he knows what he's doing and what he's supposed to do in those situations. So I definitely approve the moves.
And no Patrick Hornquist, it looks like, Danny, on the other side. How much does he add to what the Penguins are trying to do? And that's a bonus for the Flyers to get that guy out of Game 4.
Yeah, well, he's been a pain the whole time in this series. So it'd be maybe nice to not have him for one game or not see him for one game. But I'm sure he's going to be back when it's needed. But while he's not, maybe we can take advantage of it.
By the way, Danny, Voracek going back to the top line with Couturier and Giroux. Konechny was on the second line today with Patrick and Wayne Simmons. So they did add to the first and second line, too, on top of entering Wheel in and taking Lindblom out. So they are trying to make a couple of adjustments here.
Well, the playoffs are a chess match. You go back and forth, you see things, you go back on the video, and you notice where you could take advantage of certain things, and maybe they see something there, and it is what it is. And I think the Flyers made adjustment after Game 1. Pittsburgh came back and made some adjustments after Game 2. You look at the power plays, the PK, the way guys are adjusting. Now, I feel it's in the Flyers camp to make some adjustments and maybe take advantage of some things that we don't see or we don't have the luxury of seeing on the video, but the coaches spent a lot of hours watching videos, and hopefully they find something in their armor.
Danny, is there anything they can do to slow down that 87? I mean, his career numbers against the Flyers, his postseason numbers, he just kills the orange and black.
Yeah, well, I don't think you stop Sidney Crosby. I think you try to limit his chances as much as possible. When you have superstar players like that, they're going to make their plays. They're going to get their chances. You have to try to limit them as much as possible. I think that's the mindset that you have to go in the game with.
Danny, always a pleasure, man. We got the Flyers and Penguins tomorrow night, game number 4. Very key. I mean, going down 3-1 against this team would be very tough. But, I think a lot of people looked at this Penguins team and they kind of thought that they, cruised a little bit during the regular season. They were coming off back-to-back cups, so maybe, they weren't 100% focused on that regular season. So this was going to be a tall task no matter what.
Definitely, and I feel it's far from over. Yes, they do have a lot of experience. They know how to play in those big games. But for us, the longer the series goes, I think it becomes to our advantage. They've played a lot of hockey the past 2-3 seasons on their side. So the more experience we get and the longer it goes, I think it's better for us. But this is the best time of the year. We get to play another home game tomorrow. I'm excited, and that's, I hope, the way the team sees it and the players sees it.
Well, Danny B was a part of that team that beat the Penguins back then in, 11-12, the last time they faced off in the playoffs. So hopefully your presence can rub off tomorrow with a victory. Danny, appreciate it, pal.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.